Have you ever been in a situation where you have the end in mind and you have no idea how you're going to get there? I had a client call, well, technically a prospect call, and say, Justin, I'm in a jam. I've been calling around for help. I need to double revenue. And this is a serious number for him. I need to double revenue in less than 24 months. And I don't know how. And I've got 19 different business units that I need to bring together in 2 weeks so that we can have a plan in order to chase that revenue goal that we have in mind. And I'm really stuck and I don't know what to do, but I know I need to show up because the whole team is going to be there and I've got to show up well in the offsite and I've got to be able to prioritize the right work and get people to align around the work they have to do to drive that outcome. Talk about a tremendous challenge. We're talking about multiple millions of dollars that need to be generated net new from 19 different business units and not being sure how to do it. Well, that's the problem. That's what we started with. And I'm sure it comes as no surprise, but my first thing was, well, we should ask. Let's start with the 4 core questions. The reality of it was he was extremely swamped and trying to pull all these pieces together and needed help. What we did ultimately was we did the team method, got all those 19 people together in a single call. It was about a 1-hour call for 19 people. And we walked through the 4 core questions and I facilitated it just like I've been talking about with you guys. And we stepped through it one by one and we used the app process to do that. So you've got the spreadsheet, we used the app and ultimately we had a combined spreadsheet of almost 150 responses across, or I think it was actually closer to 200 responses inside our sheet of what was working, what was not working, what the biggest challenges were, and what was most important. And then of course, all that information was transformed by impact and effort and t-shirt sizing, right? Small, medium, large. How big is the project? And this particular case took all that information and I began to do all the pattern matching, right? Because this sets the chessboard out and it puts all the chess pieces in play. And we knew what we wanted as the end state. We wanted to get to double revenue in 24 months. And we knew that we had 2 weeks to try to get people to line up on it and figure out what was the gap between here and there over that 24-month period. And so whenever I was facilitating the 4 core questions, one of the big things I was suggesting was if we think about doubling the size of our business. I mean, I wasn't being specific, but I was framing it in a situation because they all knew that the changes that were coming were around revenue growth. So they all knew that. So I just said, when you think about growing your revenue, when you think about growing fast, put yourself in that situation when you answer these questions. I want to encourage you, anytime you have a rally cry or you have a moment like that in a specific situation, you frame it and that sort of sits at the top of your 4 core questions. And so then people sort of understand like that's the context they're in. That's kind of the direction you were trying to travel. And in this particular case, if we could have said double revenue, we would have, right? But that was something they wanted to reveal at the offsite. So we were just talking about growing and scaling the business quickly, which automatically implies revenue growth. When you're in that context, what will that look like? What's working? What's not working? What are your biggest blockers and challenges? And what's most important? And I'm sure it comes as no surprise that they told us. They told us everything that was in the way of their particular growth and scaling and the strategies around that. And they were high quality. Talk about mining for gold and getting the team intelligence. The stuff that came out of that was tremendous. Part of that revealed some systems issues, some accounting issues, some HR talent pipeline issues that they could not hire fast enough for their level of expertise. These were professional services. And so they needed a certain level of experience and capability. And they didn't have enough in the talent pipeline to be able to facilitate that growth, right? Because if they're going to be growing and scaling and doubling, they need more people on the team to actually execute and deliver for the clients. And then there was also some concerns around just the leadership capacity, and a lot of the leadership teams were under-resourced. I mean, just as a way these business units ran, they were under-resourced, and so they weren't real strategic in their operations individually. And so it revealed that there would need to be some operational improvement, and it was all a little different at every one of the business units, but that was a big part of it. So really quickly, with a 1-hour call, 19 leaders responsible for millions of dollars in revenue, outlined all the things that were standing in the way of that kind of success. And we were able to very quickly start to interpret and see these patterns of what would drive the outcomes over that 24 months if we were to put some of these things in place and if we were to run the 4 core questions cycle more as we went. But ultimately, I was able to generate a strategic plan sort of from a cold start, really without knowing anything that was going on with their business, and reveal, I don't know, is the 6 or so most important initiatives to focus on. And it set him up for exactly what he needed in his offsite and to help them understand the direction they were going. What's great about this is, even though he didn't have time to have that one-on-one with everybody, he was able to speak to everybody's discrete challenges, which he didn't really have visibility to until we did the 4 core questions. And it helped all of his business units and his business leaders feel aligned, and that they were being heard and understood, and that the goals weren't just these tremendous goals out of context. Instead, it felt like there was an understanding of the kind of prioritized work that needed to be done and the strategic challenge that was in front of them. And so it helped him bring that forward with clarity and to say, hey, here's the things that we're going to have to address in order to drive these outcomes, not just the results we want, but clarity on what was strategically valuable to move the needle and make an impact. In that offsite, they were able to really rally around that. And because they had already had that context, they were able to get really dialed into what each one of the groups could work on using a method I call the STAR method. You can make big things happen around a very specific situation, and in this case, double revenue. And you can set that as the frame that people are thinking about when they do the 4 core questions. If you think that's interesting and you want to apply this to one of your specific situations, like launching that product or opening that next location or doubling revenue, or maybe you want to buy a company or sell a company, whatever, this is a way to move in that path by pre-framing, putting the context together around how the 4 core questions work in that situation. Hope this is helpful to you. Thank you for continuing to watch these videos and being a part of it. Look forward to hearing from you and seeing you inside some of the work we can do together.